What's up, family? All right, I'm doing a quick impromptu video because my level of frustration. I know how I feel about doing videos when I do a subject and it feels like just nobody's watching, nobody is listening. So I'm gonna do this video again. This is the third video I'm doing. Third video to try to get you all to stop feeding your kids to the cops. Stop feeding your kids to the police. Stop doing it. Okay, because you don't have to. You do not have to. And let me tell you what happens. So I get these calls all the time, every day. I get a call from a parent. They say the police called my house or they came to my home and they're looking for my child, looking for your son or your daughter, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 20. My kid is 23. Kid, I still refer to him as my kid, even though he lives on his own in another state. That's still my kid, right? And so as a parent, we have to be the fence. We have to be the fence. We have to be the protection, a hedge of protection around our children. Okay. Now, the police will look for your children in three different occasions or three different reasons. Your child either is a suspect in a crime, that means they think he did something wrong. Okay. He is either a witness in a crime. When I say he, I'm using that interchangeably with she. So just I'm not gonna say he, she every time. I'm just gonna go with he by default. I'm not saying that everybody's kid is a boy that's in trouble. So lot more girls in trouble these days than there are boys. Islam. I see the chat. Good morning, all of you. Thank you for joining. And I hope that this information is useful. And I hope that you all will share this video so that other people do not fall victim to this. Because what's happening is people are taking their kids into the precinct, and the police don't have shit until they sit your kid down. And the next thing you know, they got a whole case against him and his friends, right? Because you sent them in there. And you're the authority figure that your kid knows. And if you send him into the police and say it's okay to talk to them, then he's going to do that or she's going to do that. And guess what? Nothing good can come from talking to the cops. Nothing good can come of it. Nothing. I promise you. Okay? And you don't have to do it. So what happens? The police call you. They'll say, listen, your son was involved in an altercation or X, Y, and Z. Or his name came up in an investigation. We need you to bring him down to the precinct. At this moment, you're terrified. You may not have had any dealings with the police in the past. Maybe this is the first time your child has had some contact with the criminal justice system. You don't know what to do. You don't know what to do at all. But you have heard from an authority figure. So you are under the pretense. You're under the impression that you have to do what they say do. You're under the impression that you have to take your kid over to the precinct, because that's what they said do. I was teaching the other night, a couple weeks ago. I get a call from one of my friends from high school. And I said, I get a text. She sent me a text. I'm about to take the boys to the precinct. I say to my class, let's take our break now, because I lecture for 2.5 hours. We take a break at the like one in the quarter mark. So I'm like, let's just take a break real quick. I call my phone. What the fuck you doing? What you saying to me? Oh, the police called the priest and the cop said he just want to talk to the boys. I said, you know that they're allowed to lie to you, right? Yeah, I know. Oh, they are? Yeah, they are. I said, you're gonna take your kids down there, they're gonna arrest him. No, he said that he's not gonna arrest him. I said, you believed him? He sound nice. He sound like a nice guy. Get the fuck out of here. Listen to me, man. The police are going to sound really nice. They're going to sound really helpful. Like bringing your kids into them is the best thing you could do. It's in their best interest. They're going to convince you. They're going to try to convince you to bring your child down without any attorney, without the protections of an attorney. Don't do it. Okay, so I told her, turn your car around. Text me the phone number of the detective. Let me call him. So she calls. She gives me the number. I call. I'm like, hi, detective. This is attorney Al-Shabazz. I understand that you have convinced my friend to bring her children on down to the precinct. So now he's laughing. And I'm not kidding you. He is fucking literally laughing. He's laughing. And of course, I start to laugh. And I'm at that point where I'm like, you know, we're not about to do that, right? And he's like, well, and I said point blank, do you have PC? Do you have probable cause to arrest them? He said, yes, I do. I said, well, we're not going to play this game with you. All right. We're not going to play this game, because what he wanted to do is he wanted to get them down there so that they could make statements, that would incriminate them, which would make the job of prosecuting them so much easier. So much easier, because then you get convicted by your own words, right? All they have to do is corroborate a little bit of here and there. You were there, bring in a victim or two, and it's over for you. Your kid is doing some serious football numbers because you failed to protect them. You failed to not deliver them to the cops when you didn't have to, right? So I talked to that detective and I said, listen, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to invoke. The first thing I did was invoke their right to remain silent. That means you can't question them, right? That means that doesn't mean that they won't still question them. That means that if you do, whatever information you get as a result of your questioning will be suppressed. And trust and believe, I have had many a statement suppressed because I made that phone call and I have the phone records to demonstrate that I made the phone call and here's who I spoke to. Okay. I've had to put other lawyers on the stand at hearings to say they made the phone call, right? And to demonstrate through their phone records that this phone call was made and that they invoked their client's right to remain silent. I've had it happen in a number of jurisdictions, and every time, I promise you, the judge in that instance has said that statement is suppressed. I can't let that in. It's demonstrated because attorneys, we're officers of the court. We're officers of the court. So the court has to give us some deference when we speak. Okay, so if I say to the judge, I made this call as an officer of the court, he has to listen. He gotta pay attention to that. Okay, he has to pay attention to that. All right. So what I did in that instance is I managed to have those kids surrender. I was able to work out a desk appearance ticket, what we call a DAT here in New York, and I was able to surrender the other one and manage to do his arraignment and get him what I think is unreasonable, but for that county, a reasonable bail when they asked for $200,000, and I managed to get it set at $20,000, and also have a really good friend who's a bondsman who was right around the corner who was able to come and bail her son out, so he didn't even spend a night in jail. That's awesome. That doesn't always happen though, right? Because she's fortunate enough to be able to pick up the phone and say, hey, Ikie, I'm about to do this. Most people don't. Most people don't have that lawyer that they could just pick up and say, yo, they said I had to bring the kids in, right? And so you don't know. So you get the call and you don't know. And you're like, what am I supposed to do? What do I do now? Okay. What if you don't have a lawyer to call? Let me just tell you right now, you do not have to take your children to the precinct. If the police officers call you and tell you that they want to question them, you should say, I do not wish to have my child questioned. I'm not bringing him down. And if you have probable cause to arrest him, I will bring him into the precinct, but he will not talk to you. And then you must request that he is appointed an attorney, even if you can't afford one. Obviously, if you have the resources that you can afford an attorney, you need to get on the phone and have that attorney affect the surrender. Have the attorney walk your child into the precinct and invoke on his behalf. Okay, invoke on his behalf. Here's a couple of things that can happen. If your child is suspected of committing a crime, more often than not, two things are happening. Either the police have enough information to arrest him or they don't. If they do have enough information to arrest him, they just want you to bring them in so that they can solidify that arrest. Okay. They're not going to tell you necessarily, right? But if you don't bring them in, they're going to come get them. So you shouldn't worry. You should not take your kids to the precinct, not under any circumstance. That is a job for a lawyer to do. Okay. And if you do it, you have to make sure that you and your son or your daughter understand that they have the right to remain silent. It's one of the most important rights that you must exercise. And police officers are very slick. They're slick at trying to get you to give up your right to remain silent. Okay. So make sure you understand name, rank, and serial number, right? It's like being a POW. If they catch you, name, rank, and serial number. That's it, right? And that's what we call pedigree information. That's your name, your address, your date of birth, shit like that. That's fine. You can give that up, but don't give up where you've been, where you were, who you were with. None of that. Don't have that conversation. That's if they're a suspect. In another instance, they might be a witness, right? Your child might be a witness and the police might need them to come down and make an ID. Okay. Your child might not want to be involved in that. They may not, that might be a dangerous situation, right? If they're a witness and whoever knows that they might be a witness, they then become a target. Everybody handles this differently. You could be the type of person who is like, I don't want to have my child involved in that. All right. Or maybe your kid didn't see what they think he saw, right? You don't have to take your child down to the precinct, because once your child tells them that he is in fact a witness, then the prosecutors can get what's called a material witness warrant, and they could lock you up until you testify. All right. But they can't do that unless they know that you possess material information. And the only way they can know that is if you tell them. Okay. That's if you tell them. All right. The other way that the police might be looking for your child is if your child is a victim. If your child is a victim of a crime. All right. It could be that maybe you never reported it, but somebody else did. And then somebody else reported it. And now the police are looking for your child so that they can make a statement so the police can make an arrest somewhere else. It's totally up to you whether or not you want to participate in those proceedings, right? It's totally up to you. You do not have to go to court if you do not want to, okay? You don't have to. You can't be forced to. But again, you can't start a proceeding and then say later, oh no, I don't want to. I was a witness, but I don't want to tell you what I saw, right? Because then we're back at material witness warrant, and that's victims and witnesses. Yes, even if you are a victim, and you don't want to participate, and they want that defendant that bad, they will get a material witness order. Keep in mind that the cops can lie to you. I want to tell you a couple things about an arrest warrant. Now, sometimes the police have enough information that they can get an arrest warrant, right? That means that they have a piece of paper with the judge has authorized the arrest of an individual. It means that they can go to the house of the last known address of that individual and they can execute that warrant, meaning that they can look for that person. That means that they get to come inside. Yes. But an arrest warrant is not a search warrant. All right. So be clear about that. An arrest warrant allows you to look for the person that the arrest warrant says names, right? And so they come to your house with arrest warrant and they say, hey, we got an arrest warrant. We want to look for this person in your house. They can come in and they can look for where a person can hide, right? So that means they shouldn't be looking in your nightstand. They shouldn't be looking in your drawers, right? Because the person cannot reasonably fit in a nightstand. And your arrest warrant only allows you to look for this person or where a person can reasonably hide or secrete themselves. All right. So that's why you have to be aware and what the police are doing, right? They shouldn't be looking in your drawers and stuff like that. And then they say, oh, we found a gun in a drawer. Well, you shouldn't have been looking there. Okay. Because an arrest warrant is very specific. I mean, in those instances, well, you might get arrested, but if you got a good lawyer, then hopefully that they would challenge that search and have that suppressed. Okay, let me just look on the chat a little bit because I want to answer a couple questions. Some of these kids are so far gone. Only remember remedy to correct their behavior. Yeah, watch your kids' social media. I've done videos on this as well. You know that the feds, you know that police intelligence agencies and organizations, they don't really have to do much except scroll through social media to find out who's doing what and things of that nature. And so watch what your children are posting. Let me give you a scenario because a lot of people think, well, my kid is not involved in anything. He's not doing anything. I don't really have to pay attention to the system. It's not my issue. Okay, let me give you a scenario. You got a good kid. Your kid doesn't get involved in anything, but your kid is walking home one day with a couple other people from his school, right? And they just horsing around. You know how kids do, walking down the block. Now, it's three of them, and they happen to be approaching three girls, three guys, and they walk in, and three girls are coming. One of the girls has a cell phone out. And she's not paying attention. She's talking. And one of the guys that's with your son thinks it's funny and cute to snatch her phone. So he snatches her phone. And then he starts to run. And then you and your son and the other guy standing there. And of course, you know what they do? They run too. They didn't do shit, but they run too. Right? Now, cameras are everywhere. Police get the report from the girl with the phone and they arrest your son. They come and get your son. And of course, your son didn't do anything, right? He just happen to be there. Mere presence is not a crime. You have to share the mental culpability as the actual person who's doing for it to be acting in concert. But before any of that happens, the police are coming to get your kid because he was there. And at that moment, they think that he's acting in concert because he ran when it happened. They don't know what happened. They don't know the breakdown. They don't know that it was the other kid who snatched the phone and he just happened to be there and things of that nature. But you getting a call. You getting a call that the police are looking for your kid, and you're just like that. It happens just like that. It happens just like that. And your kid wasn't doing anything, just happened to be walking down the block with an idiot. And now your child is at precinct and the police are questioning him and you have no idea what you're supposed to do about that. Okay? Don't allow the cops to question your kids. Do not allow your kids to talk to the cops. I don't care what the situation is, what the scenario is. They're not going to help him. In that instance, the police, you think the police are going to believe your kid? You think the police are going to believe that your kid just happened to be there? He wasn't involved. He didn't have anything to do with it. Right? I don't care if your kid doesn't have a record. God forbid he does have a record. They definitely ain't gonna believe him then, but they're not gonna believe him regardless. They're not. And so you having your child explain the situation is not gonna do anything but make it worse, because what you're gonna do is solidify that your child was there. You're gonna solidify that he was there, okay, and that he was a witness and that he knew something. Don't do it. Don't do this. Please don't do this. All right, don't do this. You have got to be a fence when the police come for your kids. Now, a couple of things I want to make sure that everybody is doing with their children, whether you agree with me or not, whether you think that you're a sovereign citizen or not, I don't give a fuck. All right, I don't care about none of that. Make sure your kid has a school ID on them. All right, if they are in junior high school, middle school, or high school, they have a school ID. Make sure that they leave that house with identification. Because if they don't have ID, I know you think that you don't have to have ID when you're outside. Okay, you don't. But if the police stop you and they cannot ascertain who you are, they can hold you until they do. Now, challenge me on that. Because I promise you, you'll be sitting somewhere waiting for somebody to ascertain your identification because you decided that you didn't want to carry ID. How do they know that you're not Charles Manson? I mean, not Charles Manson per se. Somebody go say, well, he did. Now he in jail, whatever the fuck. No, I mean, how do they know that you are not a wanted sex offender, that you are a wanted somebody, right? Or fugitive from justice? How do they know that? They don't know, which is why you should have ID. And if you don't have ID, then the police can detain you in certain instances to make sure you are not someone who is wanted somewhere. So do that for your children. Make sure they have ID on them. Okay, please. Yes. Sign these papers and we'll let you go home. That's one of the things that they always do. They did that to my client. You can go look that up. I'll post a link in the when I post this. I'll put a link in the box to one of the cases that I did in Queens, where a young man was arrested after a murder that had happened 2 years ago, and he was there at the at the courthouse to pay a fine for like a ticket or some shit, and the cops bagged him. They bagged him for something that happened 2 years prior. He was like, "What the fuck?" So they take him to the precinct, and now this is a guy. He's from the hood, and he's not a young cat. He's like late 20s, early 30s, and he gets to the precinct, and he's like, "I don't know what the fuck they talking about." They kept him there for over 10 hours, and they gave him all the information about why he was arrested. Yo, we know about so-and-so. We heard that you had beef with him. Y'all had a fight the day before. He shot at you, and the next day you shot at him, caused him to crash his car, and he died. And we know it was you, and he was a bad guy. So just write down what we told you. Write that down. You got a self-defense claim. These cops went so far as to go to their own computers and print up statutes on murder, the difference between murder and manslaughter, to convince this guy that he had a self-defense claim so that he would confess to this murder, and thinking that I'll confess, but since they said I have self-defense, I'm good. I'm good. And they convinced him, you good. We're gonna put in a good word with the DA. That's what they do. That's what they say, right? Right. And so he, after being exhausted and tired and scared, he basically he's like, fuck it. All right, whatever. What you want me to do? And he pretty much They wrote the statement. He just signed it. He wrote some parts of it. Now, now that I'm recalling, and pretty much he signed it. And then he sat in jail for 2 years, right? Because when you get arrested for murder, you don't get bail. At least not us. We don't get bail. We get remand status, right? Fuck your presumption of innocence. Fuck your job. Fuck your house. Fuck your house payments. Fuck your rent. Fuck your wife and kids. Fuck all the shit you might have going on. You have been accused of a crime, and that's enough for a black man or a black woman in America to be detained without the benefit of bail. And so you're sitting in jail, like he was sitting in jail for 2 years on a murder case that you confessed. Now tell me, what do you do then? We call that back against the wall, dick in the dust, right? We went to trial because fuck that, right? I'm about justice. And this kid said, I didn't do it. I didn't kill him, but they told me, and I pretty much just did what they said do. And I believed them. And it didn't matter if I believed them or not, right? My job is to make sure that people's rights are protected. And so we went to trial. And would you believe that those cops, because I had them dead to right, I had their proof, I had their printouts, they had to admit that they did in fact show him the law. They showed him and they printed out different statutes and things of that nature. And they basically morphed into lawyers, right? The judge didn't suppress their statement, but the jury was like, we don't like that. And he was found not guilty on all counts, even with that confession, right? But that does not happen often. I promise you, that doesn't happen. That doesn't happen because in most trials, a confession is what we call the Holy Grail. The Holy Grail. There's no better evidence than someone who says, yep, it was me, I did it. What else do you need, right? And so, in that instance, we were fortunate because there was no footing in the evidence, right? So the confession did not have a foothold in the evidence. He in his confession, he was describing a gun that was a revolver, but we had ballistics evidence that showed that the gun used was in fact a 9mm automatic, a semi-automatic. So there were things that if you are an adept attorney, you could be able to catch. And you got a little bit of street knowledge, a little bit about guns. You can catch some things and say, "Oh," he said, "Cock. That's not the way. There's a different type of cock," and and you are able to extrapolate a few things, and then you can exploit the things that you are able to extrapolate and save somebody's life. I've been successful in that regard. There was a case over in Nassau not too long ago about a Facebook beef. A young girl, 16 years old. The police took her down again, and locked her parents in a house. They called the house. They made it a crime scene, right? So they didn't allow her parents to leave the house. So they had full access to her at 16 years old, right? And so they got her to confess that she has stabbed another girl. She has stabbed a girl in her back. The girl's lungs collapsed and the girl died. 17 years old. This is real shit over some Facebook shit. Right. So now she's sitting in jail because they charged her with manslaughter at 16 years old. And then they offered her 16 years. So plead guilty will give you 16 years. And at least it's not 25. And I'm like, fuck you. Right. So we go to trial. Not guilty, all counts. Right. But then again, you got it. I'm only one person. And I can't say that there are a lot of lawyers that go hard like I go. Because like every kid looks like my kid, right? And so, I'm a little bit different in that regard. So that's why I do these videos, because I'm a mom. I'm a mom. And I remember when the cops came to my house looking for my son. Real talk. And it was bullshit. It was traffic shit. Like he didn't pay one of them traffic summonses that you got to pay them summons. Despite, look, the kid, what's the saying? The shoemaker's kids ain't got no shoes. Right, my kid don't want to pay his fucking summonses, and I'm on the videos telling people, pay your summons. They turn into warrants, and I got the cops at my door talking about, is Al-Shabazz home? I was like, so now let me tell you what I did. When the police come to your house, don't let them in. Step outside and close the door. Close the door. Your threshold, that that space between the outside and the inside, that is where the Fourth Amendment lies. Okay, that is where the Fourth Amendment lies. Your right to be protected from an unlawful search and seizure, right at that threshold. Don't let them in. Go outside, close the door. How can I help you? Who are you looking for? Nope, he's not here. Okay, so when they came to my house, I went outside. How you doing, detective? Now, they don't know I'm a lawyer. I don't ever tell people I'm a lawyer because I really like to see how they're going to deal with me first, right? Just as a regular person. And so I go, how can I help you? He goes, well, we have a warrant for his arrest. You do? Can I see it? I'd like to see a copy of it. Oh, we don't have a copy of it. I was like, so I should just take your word that you have a warrant. He was like, well, I looked at it. It was in a computer. And I was like, and so y'all don't have no printers? Where you from? He's like, no, we did. So he's laughing now, and I'm laughing. He's like, well, ma'am, we can. I said, okay, you're not about to tell me what you can do. He was like, well, and then they go with well, you've been watching too much TV. Well, actually, it's not a result of the TV. It's actually the schooling, education, training, and experience that I have. I've been an attorney for almost 20 years, and then I show them my ID. And then they don't ever want to tell me what they can do anymore. Right. And at that point, the conversation turns to, so I will bring him in and we will clear this up. So you don't need to trouble yourself at all. And I appreciate you coming by. Thank you. At which point they turn and they leave because they know they can't bullshit me. They know it. They know they can't bullshit me. They know they can't tell me falsehoods. Right? Police come to your house. They say, we need to come in and look for so-and-so. You don't know that. You can say, no, you don't. I'm not so concerned with what you need to do. Okay? You cannot come in here. All right? Step outside that threshold, close the door, talk to the police. All right? They can't come in unless they have a warrant for an arrest, which they have to have a copy of. They need to show you a copy of it. Right? And it has to have that person's name. And that person has to live in your house for them to be able to get in. If that person is not living at your house, that person doesn't live there, he's not a registered occupant in your house, don't let them in. Don't let them in to come look either. Close your door. Okay? Anything they do after that, and I'm not saying get in their way or fight, but anything they do after that, that's a violation. Let them go ahead. Let them go ahead. Do not get yourself hurt. Okay? Do not get yourself hurt. At that point, hurt. I'm sorry, when I get to talking too long and I ain't bring no water in here, they start to run into each other. But don't get yourself hurt. I'm not here to incite any type of fighting or violence against the police. That's not wise. That's not what I'm suggesting. That's not what I'm advocating. Don't get this shit fucked up. Okay, don't get it twisted. But basically, I just want you all to be a fence. I don't want you to think that just because the cops called, you got to surrender your kids. All right, you don't. You don't. And it's always best if you have a lawyer surrender them, because if they are going to be charged and when they get to arraignments, and the court is trying to ascertain whether or not they are a flight risk, it is always great for an attorney to be able to say, we surrendered him. I brought him into court. He is not a flight risk. I brought him into the precinct this morning. And I always give very detailed specifics. Your Honor, he is not a flight risk. We brought him in at 8 o'clock this morning to the 113th precinct. I met with Detective so-and-so. We sat. I invoked his rights at exactly 9:05. He, so the court knows, one, that this person is vested in the community, right? Two, that he has people who are around him that count as what's called moral suasion. Moral suasion is that thing that makes people do the right thing, right? Like your mama put her house up for your bail, okay? While you face in that murder. It's the moral suasion that causes you to come back to court because you don't want your mother to lose her house, okay? That's moral suasion, all right? And so you want to arm your lawyer with the ability to make that application for you at arraignments, all right? So it's always great when you are surrendered to the police as opposed to them having to come look for you, right? And use their resources to do that. That's always great, all right? So that's really what I wanted to share with you, because for some reason, it doesn't matter how many videos I do. Next week, I'm going to get a call. All right. And then this is applicable to whether they are looking for your kid. Ladies, it's the same if they're looking for your husband. Fellas, it's the same if they're looking for your wife. Okay, it doesn't matter. All right, if they're looking for someone, all right, you got to be a fence. Don't give it up. Don't give it up. All right, I'm gonna look a couple of these comments and then see if there's any questions and see if I gotta block anybody because I'm really tired of the bullshit. Okay, let's see. What to do when the Gestapo knock on your door? I answered that already. Okay, if they knock on your door, step outside. Step outside. Close the door behind you. Close the door behind you, because if you don't, what's gonna happen? You open your door, they're gonna say dumb shit like, "Oh, we smell marijuana. We was able to see," right? Because if they're able to see certain activity, they can say things are in plain view. That gave us the right to search, And listen, when it comes down to your word against theirs, I promise you 100% that the judge is gonna take their word. Um, Thank you for your hard work, and thank you. I appreciate the support. I appreciate all of you guys who support and understand the importance of the information that I'm giving, because it can make the difference in somebody's life. I promise you, if the kid that spent the 2 years in jail for the confession, if he had never confessed, they would not have had enough to arrest him at all. That would have made all the difference for him in those 2 years. And what if we would have lost that trial? What if he would have picked a different lawyer? Because I know with everything that I got, that if he didn't hire me, he would be doing life. And I can say that for about, I want to say somewhere upward of 20 men, right? I can say that, men and women, right? All ages. So I know for a fact. Have you heard of my case? I can't say that I have, because that's not enough information for me to go on. Mere presence at a scene. Crime is not evidence of guilt. I said that already. Yes, indeed. Peace and light. Thank you. Peace and light back to you. I explained that, Issa. Yes, I did. Are you licensed to practice in Nevada? No, I am only licensed to practice in New York. I don't even know the laws in New Jersey, right? Because every state is a sovereign state, right? When you think about the way our government is set up, we have 51 sovereignties, right? But the federal government is a sovereignty, and then we have 50 states. They each have their own sovereignty. And so all the laws in every state is different, except the federal law, right? The federal law in every state is the same. And so unless you have a federal case in another state, I can't really help you, because I can go get admitted in federal courts anyway. I'm admitted to federal courts here in New York, both the Southern and the Eastern District, and I've tried cases in Utica, and I've tried cases over in Connecticut federal court. And so it's easier to move around because the federal law doesn't change, right? Because it's the federal law is the same in every state. But state law changes, which is why you can't just hop around as an attorney from one state to the next, unless you're admitted to practice and you demonstrated to the authorities in that state that you are familiar and well versed with the law there. So I'm sorry, I am not admitted to practice anywhere but New York, and trust me, I've got enough to deal with here. So if you have a woman who has an order of protection against you and is abusing it by lying, constantly having you falsely arrested, what can you do to remedy the sexual situation? That is a horrible situation. Okay, so it depends on a couple of things. You can get an order for protection from family court, right, which is a different route, or you can get an order of protection from criminal court. So if you are having a domestic issue, right, with your girlfriend, and she goes to family court, she swears out what's called the family offense petition, immediately, even without you being there, they will issue an order of protection ex parte. Ex parte means there's only one side making the argument, right? I've explained this in the past, but I'll do it again. Ex parte meaning that there's only one side of this controversy that's present, and that's her. She's there, and she's saying, hey, this person is a threat to me. He's threatened me in the past, and I'm afraid, and I need an order of protection. Okay, and a lot of women do this because they want to make your life miserable, and they want to fuck with you. They want to get you arrested, and they're just women who are scorned. And you know what? And when you scorn a woman, this is the bullshit you got to deal with, unfortunately. And I'm sorry, there might not be a scorned woman. She just might be a crazy person. So it could be that. And when I'll tell you what I tell you before, you picked that crazy bitch. But I'm sorry. Y'all know, don't get me started. All right, let me just go back. So if you have an order of protection from a family court, then you should file a family offense petition regarding that same order of protection. or you have to reply to it, right? So typically what happens is when you get it ex parte, the court does then set a date and give you an opportunity to be heard. You then have to go and appear for a hearing to establish that whatever allegation she's making about you are not true. All right. So that's one thing. The second thing, um, the second thing is if you are arrested, right? Say you all get into an argument. Maybe she didn't even call. Maybe some neighbor overheard you all arguing and called, and the police came and you got arrested. As a matter of course, whether she says, "Hey, I don't want to press charges" or not, the court is going to issue order of protection, right? So, say for instance, it sounds like that this person is orchestrated this order of protection and now is trying to manipulate it, right? Because here's what you need to understand about order of protection in New York. If you have an order of protection against you and someone says you violated it, it's a must arrest situation. The police have no discretion. They can't say, well, maybe he didn't mean to call you. Maybe it was an accident or something to that effect. They can't do that, right? They can't even challenge the veracity of the woman. They can't even say, you know what, we don't even believe her. Excuse me. Even if they don't believe her, they must make the arrest. All right. That's where we are on domestic violence cases. All right. And so in a criminal situation, now you got that order of protection, right? Here's what happens in two things. One, you get somebody who knows the power of an order of protection. And then they do shit like they'll call the police and say you called them or something to that effect. The beauty of technology today is that there's always a footprint. So if someone says that you violated the order of protection because you called them, there should be a record of it. All right. There should be some sort of record of it. They should have proof of it. Unfortunately, this is one of those situations where someone can literally wreak havoc on your life. And it's not a lot that you can do except stay away from that person and have no dealings with them at all whatsoever so that they don't have an opportunity to make up lies about where you are and what you've been doing, right? You just got to cut all ties. And I know that might be difficult because you might have a kid in common with that woman. But that's when you have to do things like you go get your own order of visitation. And in that order of visitation, you make sure that you put in that visitation order that it's third-party exchanges at the local precinct or the local Starbucks or McDonald's or someplace public, and that you don't do the transfer, right? So you send your sister, send your girl cousin, right? Send your girl cousins. I'm not advocating violence. I'm a girl cousin, and I know how it is. My girl cousins tell me some shit. Be like, I'm ready. Where she live, cousin? Where she live, cousin? Right? But I can't do that. I can't do that, right? But you can arrange to have a third party facilitate certain exchanges. You have to do everything to avoid that person, okay? Because you know that any contact you have, they might exploit it, and there's really nothing you can do about that. There's nothing you could do. You can't stop a person from calling and making up lies about you. You can't do it. There's nothing you could do. If they are hell bent on doing that, they're going to do it. And the only thing that you can do is to make sure you can establish you with someplace else at that time. All right. So it's different for the criminal. If it's a criminal order of protection, you don't really have the same means of recourse as you do if it's family court, where you could go to family court and actually talk to a judge and be heard. All right. Yeah, I'm not doing the polite thing. I already addressed everything I'm needing, and I saw his video, and it's not even worth responding to. He said nothing, and I told you before, there's no response. You either pay the people back or you go to prison, and that's that. So as far as I'm concerned, I'll be waiting for the iron bracelets because it doesn't look like he's gonna pay the people back. So. Let's pretend all police are doing their job by the book, shall we? Miss me with that BS. There are many officers out here abusing their authority. Yeah, I don't think I've said that all the police are doing their job by the book. I don't think I make that representation. So I'm not gonna say nothing about that. Let's see. She hasn't repaid all of the women. I don't know what that means. I think you guys are talking about something else. Yeah. All right. So, yeah, local public place. I like the precinct because there's cameras over there. I don't know if the cameras at McDonald's work. Shit, lawyer didn't explain to me what I was signing. Then you had the wrong lawyer, Olivia. You had the wrong lawyer, or you didn't ask the question, right? Because let me just tell you, you are presumed to know what you're signing. You cannot say later in any forum that you signed something, but you either didn't know or you didn't understand. You look crazy, and the courts will not they will not give you any deference to that. I tell my students all the time, because we are in that age where we get these apps, and they got these licensing agreements, right? And then you got to scroll like for an hour, and then you go to agree. You ain't read that shit. You ain't read none of that shit, right? I ain't read it either. I'm just like, agree, I need this app. And we do that. And the presumption is you read it all. You cannot be heard to complain later that you didn't. So, Olivia, to that, if you had a lawyer and you signed something, that's on you, because you should have stopped before you signed it and said, what am I signing? Can you explain this to me? Right? And people think that they can't question their lawyers, but they work for you. Your lawyer works for you. And so you shouldn't feel forced or pressured to do or sign or make a statement or anything like that that you're not comfortable with or that you don't fully understand. Okay? So take a beat, pause, and say, do you understand? I always make sure I talk to my clients in plain language, because sometimes contracts are written with legalese and certain legal jargon that is not common parlance for everyone. And so I have to break some things down. Like, what this is saying is that you have the right to remain silent. You have to give it up, right? So I might have to break it down like that. So stop your lawyer. Remember, this is someone that works for you, whether you pay them or not. If they're assigned to you, they work for you. So make sure they're doing the job you need them to do. What else? Let's see. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Moses, if I'm saying that right. I'm sorry if I'm not. Citizens breaking the law and conducting themselves improperly. Okay, law is different set of laws from criminal. Family, yes, family law is very different from criminal law, although there is a lot of overlapping. Okay, especially when it comes to family violence and domestic violence, right? Because they handle family offenses in family court, but they also handle them in criminal court. All right, and if you are divorced and you are dealing with a domestic abuse, you might be in what's in the combination part that they have in certain counties called the IDV part, which is the integrated domestic violence part, where they handle both your divorce and your domestic violence case at the same time. All right, so that's sort of a combo civil, supreme, criminal, family thing, right? The integrated domestic violence part. All right. Okay. I'm about to get out of here. I hope that you all will share the video, and so that we can arm parents. This really is about us as parents, and being a fence for our kids. Because there would not have been a Central Park jogger case. There would not have been a Central Park 5 if there were 5 parents or 5 grandparents who were well versed, and understood the power and authority that they had. Right, because if you don't know, and you guys didn't watch, there was a 6th person who was arrested. It was a 6th guy. It was supposed to be the Central Park 6, but that 6th person, he was like, "No, I didn't do this shit. I didn't do it. I wasn't there." Right? He didn't do what the others did. Right, after hours of interrogation, caved. Like, okay, he said I did it. Well, he did it then, and that's pretty much what happened. If you aren't familiar with the documentary, everyone should watch it, especially if you have teenage kids in New York City, because if you think anything has changed since the Central Park 5, I got another thing coming for you. I got another thing coming. Ain't shit changed. They're still coming for our kids the same way they did, and they still are managing to extract confessions from them, extract confessions for them. But police officers aren't trained to find the truth. They are trained to extract confessions. And those two things are mutually exclusive. Real talk. They're not the same thing. They're not the same thing. All right. Okay. All right, so I'm out. Thank you very much. I appreciate you. I hope you all learned something today. I hope you share the video. We have to be a fence for our kids. I'm going because I'm going to see Alvin Ailey today. I'm taking my mommy to see Alvin Ailey. So I'm looking forward to that and spending some quality time with her. All right, guys. All right. It's your girl Ikie. I love you. I wouldn't do this shit if I didn't. I love you. I really do. All right. You guys have a great day. All right. Peace.